Okay, should have video now. There we go. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Here to teach you guys a little bit more about Dotloop. In our last class, we talked a little bit about, or what we did was we created a folder with all the appropriate documents for you to do a purchase contract. In this class, what we're going to do is we're going to create a folder with all the appropriate documents for you to take a listing. And that will allow you to fill out all the information you need to take a listing and so forth. Does anybody want to use the computer up here? Get this one going too. All right. So the first thing we're going to start off doing is by logging into Dotloop. Now, there's two ways to log in Dotloop. You can either log in through the KW system or you can go directly to Dotloop. Just a preference, I always like going through the KW system. Once again, after you log in, you should always make sure that you see a red and black screen. If you see a blue screen, you are probably in the wrong profile. And in order to get into the right profile, you can simply hover over your profile or your picture in Dotloop, and you will see the different profiles that you have. If you are ever in need of tech support with Dotloop, one of the easiest places to find tech support is at the bottom of any page. You will see that there's both the phone number and the member ID. You will need your member ID when you call into Dotloop, otherwise it may be difficult for you to get support. So it's important to know that if you forget your member ID, it's not only here on the bottom of the page, but it's also here when you scroll down and pull your profile down, you'll see it right here. Okay? So as we get started here, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a folder. And what that folder is going to do is that we're going to use that folder to add all our templates in it. And when we take a listing, what are typically the templates that we need? So we need a listing agreement, right? Usually look at exclusive, right to sell. What else do we need? Disclosure. So we have what, the real property disclosure. We have the lead-based paint. Radon. Anything else we need to send them?
I always do a dual agency at listing.
Okay, so you can add that to your folder. Typically, I don't add that in because isn't it in the listing agreement?
Yeah, I know, but that's not enough. That's not enough coverage for a dual agency. Well, but I'm just telling you what I do.
So you definitely could add a dual agency agreement. That's a good idea. Okay. One of the other things we have to add is a lead-based pamphlet, right?
Yep.
And then also the radon pamphlet.
Listing modification. Is that the real property? Is that the disclosure?
That's the real properties, the residential real property disclosure. It's one about the 25 questions there. If your house was ever used as a meth lab and all those fun questions. Any other ones that you might add in there? I heard listing modification.
Yeah.
So I don't typically send a listing modification as part of my listing packet. I usually do that one-off as I need.
You said this as a packet.
As a packet when you're doing an initial listing, right?
Okay.
There are some optional.
I thought you were saying that you were creating a phone book.
So if there are optional ones that you can put whatever ones you like to in there. What I find is that those are typically the 6 documents that you need on a residential house to do it. If you're doing a different type of property, there apparently will be other documents there. That makes sense? So, was everybody able to log into Dotloop? Right? Everybody's been able to log in Dotloop. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the templates section, which is the icon over here with the 2 pages of paper. And we're going to click on templates.
Is this without creating a loop, John?
Correct, without creating a loop. And what we're going to end up doing is we're going to create a folder, and we're going to add the appropriate documents, and then we're going to fill in our specific contact, our specific information towards how we do business directly into that agreement so that it absolutely is correct. And it will be correct 100% of the time. And we're not depending on some type of potentially not put the right characters in there. So for example, what I have seen is that some people, when they go to populate the office name, it comes up Keller Williams South/Southwest Chicagoland. You may have seen that. This will eliminate that. We are also working on getting that fixed so that it will be Keller Williams Preferred Realty. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click over in the red bar and we're going to click New Folder. What I would just do is I would name this something as pre-filled out listing agreement. And then we're going to create a folder. So after we create a folder, now what we have to do is we have to get the templates and the appropriate templates in there so that we can start to fill them out. So in order to do that, what we can do is we can simply click on the templates here. And then what you will see on the left-hand side, yours will look a little bit different than mine because mine I use way too much for training. As you will see a bunch of folders that will allow you to choose which templates you want to add to the folders. So how many people are a member of CAR here? Chicago Association of Realtors, you are. And I know we have, everybody else is a member of MORE or primarily uses MORE, and I believe you use KIFAR forms here.
Three Rivers.
Three Rivers, okay. So there should be a folder here with all the appropriate forms. If there is not, like we're working on getting KIFAR, all their information uploaded, you will not see the documents at this time. However, the process is still the same and you can come back and add the appropriate documents you need. So what we're going to do here is, because our audience is primarily Main Street Organization of Realtors, I'm going to demo how to look on the Main Street Organization of Realtors. If you are a CAR member and you're associated with this office, you will see a group of forms called the CAR official documents or interactive documents. Right. So now that we're here, we're going to simply click on, in this case, Main Street Organization of Realtors. And what we can do is we'll notice that there's a search bar at the top. And as we start to type stuff, we will see the specific documents that we need, or we can find the specific documents that we need. So typically, a listing agreement is called a marketing agreement. And just so I can make sure I find it here. So I see here, residential exclusive right to sell marketing agreement. Find the appropriate document that you want to add to the folder, you want to simply click on the box to the left here, and then you want to click copy. And And what this does is this takes it out of the template folder and puts it into your own specific folder. We did an exclusive, residential exclusive right to sell.
Just so you know, they, I think they did put the listing and the buyers in for Kankakee.
Does it have a Z in front of the form though? Does it have the letter Z in front of there? And that was the one that was the old version in there. It's not quite that. So yours should be in. Submitted it the other day.
Okay.
So, and I submitted the rest of them. So they should, by the end of the week, they should be all in there, all the forms that you
It
need.
said updated September 18th.
Because I changed the name of the form so that I knew that those were the older ones.
Okay.
Because those were a PDF version that somebody loaded in there. That had some information filled out in there correctly. Okay, was everybody able to get the listing agreement in their folders? Okay, so the next thing we can do is we can now work on getting the next 5 documents: the real property disclosure, lead-based paint, radon, lead-based paint, and the radon pamphlets in here. And what you can do is we can do the same process. We're just going to simply click on the templates, and then we're going to do a search for the documents. But instead of clicking copy after every single document, we can select multiple documents and then click copy, and then they'll all import over at the same time.
So if I'm on this
Is that the
screen,
disclosure?
You're on that screen.
I'm sorry.
So the question is I'm on the screen, I'm in the folder.
so go back to the template.
So you're in the proper folder that you want to be at the template.
Right.
So you click add a document,
Oh,
and then it'll pop down.
So in Main Street, I'm sorry, what's it called?
The exclusive right to sell. Residential exclusive right to sell.
You want to click on that, John?
Well, what we did was we added the first document to there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add the other 5 documents to that folder.
exclusive rights of lease.
You mentioned template.
What's that, sir?
You mentioned template. Click on this and then go to template. Or template.
Oh, when you're in okay. So after you select the document, which we've done here, you just click copy. Copy to. In your case, now you're going to do to templates. Because when you did this, you weren't in the actual folder. So what you're going to do is you're going to copy it to the actual. I can't. Mine is pretty filled out. Let's see.
What do you find the disclosures easier than?
So
You type in,
So what I have found easy, like for example, if I want to make sure that I'm in the right folder to begin with. So I want to make sure I'm in the Main Street forms. And if I type in like radon, okay, so the IAR disclosure form 422, and then I also see the radon testing guidelines for real estate. So because these are easy, I'm just going to copy them there real quick. And I'm going to do the same process again, but I could have kept going and worked on the other ones. So I'm just doing this again, clicking on my templates here. And then the other one is lead-based paint. Make sure you click in the actual folder here.
do each one individually.
Well, you can keep searching and clicking through them. It's just a preference. What I find is if I do the radon, the lead, and then I look for the real property kind of on its own.
How do you delete one? I put lease to market agreement instead. How do I delete it?
Okay, so in order, if you've actually done it, just hit OK. And I believe there's going to be 3 dots next to the folder. Okay. And then if you click there, it should say delete or remove. So in this case, here's the I typed in lead, the lead-based paint disclosure, and the lead-based paint manual.
got those two, I can't find them.
You can't find the real property?
Property, yeah.
There was an issue last week that it was not in here. And they swear to me up and down that they have added it. Yeah, you're right, I'm not seeing it in here either.
I think I'm behind.
Okay, get you caught up. So it appears that
I think it's a KW. Two.
yeah, I'm not seeing it in here. It's something that I have to work on getting it back in here. Because they had it in here, and then when they changed it to the, where you have to sign the last page again, they haven't re-added it.
Okay, so I have the listing agreement.
Okay, so it's not here, that's fine. So now we're gonna add another document. Now we're just gonna put the templates and then we're gonna start them. Do you have another folder with them here?
So I'm looking to see if I can find it in other folders.
If you scroll all the way down, there's the IAR forms, because I believe that's an IAR form.
Yeah,
The IAR
this
folder.
wasn't letting me in there.
Okay.
Watch.
That asks you for a code.
Yeah. Ours. Which I don't know what it is right now.
Is that 4?
That's 3700.
Is that 4 zeros or 5?
So we're just, the only one we're missing is the real property disclosure.
Okay, so right down. That's the circle of the two.
Jen, I know how to find that though on MLS. Can I do that?
Well, no, because
Oh,
it will not be linked to the Dotloop property.
so you won't be able to autofill or?
Won't be able to autofill it, you'd have to manually put all the blanks in there.
Got it.
So we'll have to work on getting this fixed, 'cause, I was told it was fixed last week, and I didn't have a chance to check before last day. All right, so we've got those, has everyone got the appropriate forms in there, or are we still working on that? Yes, so in a few minutes, it's fine.
Yeah, I guess the hard part is like trying to figure out, okay, what folder has what.
Right, so what we should have is there should be an association folder for everybody and all the correct forms that are not, or should be in it. And if they're not, then I have to work on getting it fixed because it's obvious. Yeah.
Yeah, because that would make it most efficient if everything was in one.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you could just click.
And that's how it's supposed to be set.
Instead of downloading some things and uploading other things.
Yeah, it should all be 100%. That's what we're working to get to.
Is the one that's the exclusive right to sell, is that this one?
Yeah, that's an IAR document, that's not a cover document.
Well, I'm doing Main Street.
Okay, Main Street.
Is that the right one?
Well, you can use that one, but there's
Use the one you wrote.
type in. Type in exclusive.
volume.
What's that, I'm sorry?
It's still coming up the same ones when I put in the word exclusive, it's still showing the same results.
So what happens if we scroll all the way down? Residential exclusive agency, residential exclusive, right to sell, adjust, things right at the bottom. All right, the last one. Okay.
I think it all just clicked.
Okay. We're gonna get it all fixed up for everybody here because we can see that things are missing and, you know, it will get fixed. You guys doing okay over here? Okay.
It's a lot of paperwork.
Right?
Now we gotta fill it all out.
Okay, I'm trying to do the radar.
So what happened, and what some people are doing, and I'm just going to show this as an example in case anybody runs into this, is they will not necessarily be in this folder here. So they might have clicked out or just be in documents here, and they're not in that folder. And then they go to the templates, and they just pick one of these templates here for Main Street. I'm doing this as an example, because I've seen several people have encountered this. So if they do this, and then you just click, it'll say copy down here. That didn't work. But what you'll notice is that it doesn't go to, it's looking for a loop to send it to, or it's looking for a template section to do there. So what it will come up is say copy to, and then you just have to, it'll say as a Dotloop editable file, and then you just have to send it to the template folder that you wanted it to.
Okay, so I click on the pre-filled out listing.
Right, so,
folder
yeah.
first, and then add a document? Or
Correct.
add, okay,
Yeah, that-
and
right,
then template,
correct.
Main Street.
That's what I was doing.
You're good, you're fine. But some people, it was just looking a little bit different than what I was showing up on the screen. So. For everybody that got all the forms, don't worry, we'll make sure everybody gets caught up here. If you go to your folder now and you click on, what you can do is once you're in your folders, you can rearrange the order of the forms. So what I usually like to do is I usually like to put the manuals down at the bottom because I don't have there's nothing to fill out there.
So get out of this, add a document, right?
It should be in this. It should be in the same. Yeah, if you haven't hit that, add a document, it should just be in the same folder in the same area. You have to move it. Yeah. So what we're doing is what you'll see is what you can do is you can change the order of the documents. And for me, what I always like to do is have the listing agreement on top, the disclosure second, and the pamphlets last, because it just makes everything easier for me.
Okay, but how do you change the order?
Okay, so what you can do is you can just click and you can just drag it.
On the tablet, not so much.
Does it work on a tablet? Not everybody know how it shows up. So if you are here and you're able to go forward, what you can do is you can click on the exclusive right to sell marketing agreement.
Well, is there an option to move it if you can't drag it?
You know,
Yeah, that's what
I
Probably have to do that on a
You
desktop.
might have to do it on a desktop, I think. Isn't there somehow you hold two fingers here now and try to do it? So it's not a huge deal. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go through and add the information that never changes here, okay, to make sure that it's correct.
John, how come we didn't ask you if you wanted to pre-fill the autofill screen? Did it come up?
Because we're not inside of a loop, we're in the template section.
Okay.
So when you launch a loop, it asks you to pre-fill and add all your client information.
Okay.
So we can go through here and fill out, and I always like to fill everything out, even if it'll autofill over it, just in case. What occasionally will happen is I'm running out of the office real quick and I want to just print up a forms. I can just go right here and I can print up a blank set of forms for myself, and I can always have them with all my information filled out.
Okay, good idea.
So even though that it might override it when we do autofill, I'm not too concerned about it.
FEIDR.
Is everybody here starting to fill out the form? Does anybody need help getting the documents in there? Okay. Couple tips that I have been told through the years about just general listing items is that I know several agents who just have all their contracts end on 2 dates a year. One is June 30th, the other is December 31st. So if it's me, what I might do at this point is I might just put in here, it terminates June 30th, 2018. It's just a tip. You can choose whether or not that's something that you want to do. But occasionally what will happen is sometimes I will send a brokerage agreement before I fill it out to a client for them to review. And that way it already has an agreement, and then we can just fill in the date that it starts. What that also allows me to do is it knows that all my agreements are going to start and stop on one day typically. So that I don't, if I have to do an extension, I only have to think about it twice a year. I don't have to think about it any other time or worry about potentially a listing expiring and not getting it relisted or getting an extension done. In line 30 here, what you will see is this is where you will add your name as the realtor. Oh, yeah, line 30. Where it says I'm sorry, 31. I'm sorry, 31. Now I have a broker question here.
Okay.
Are we allowed to check yes for a client on dual agency if it requires them to sign it? Or do they actually have to check? Or does it not matter? If they didn't want dual agency, then they didn't have to initial it. But if I check yes, and just have them initial it, is that a problem?
I would say it's safer to have them check yes, but yet at the same time, I don't think it's a problem as long as they initial it. And initials are part of compliance, so they have to initial it either way.
All right, so I might want to say yes. If you don't do dual agency, you can say no. Your choice. But what I find is that consumers and customers, a lot of times they forget to check this part, and then you're trying to chase them down to get one little checkbox here. And again, they still have to confirm it, just so that we're clear on that. Even though that they say that they agree to dual agency, right? They still have to confirm dual agency again. And even from what I'm told, after that, they can still opt out at any time, even after they've confirmed it.
Yes.
Right? They can say, no, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Okay. 94, lines 94, paragraph 11. Everybody about here, you guys need a few more minutes to catch up here. So here's where we talk about a brokerage fee. Okay, this is where I see a lot of people make mistakes. Right, Anthony, when we talk about this?
Huge amount.
So does the office have an MLS fee?
No.
No, the office doesn't have a standard MLS fee? Okay, so let's just say a listing, for example, that a listing is 6% And then let's say you want to, you have the ability to add additional, so you could charge, what I've seen people do is I say, well, I know I have to spend all this money on pictures. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the person it's going to be 6% plus $250. Okay? Is that understandable to everybody? So,
No, you said you were gonna tell the agent it's 6%.
so when I'm listing your house. Okay? I'm telling you my fee is 6%.
You're telling the seller.
Sell it.
Okay.
6% plus $250. Okay, so that's my commission. So my commission is 6% plus $250. Now, how are we going to break that down? Just so that we're making it easy on us. We're going to give each side 3%. Okay, we're going to split that part 3%. Okay. Then in the MLS, the co-op that we're going to offer, MLS co-op, is going to be 3% minus $150. Okay? Do people do that? You see every other agent, every other company does this. In Palatine, it's mandatory at our office because all the other companies are doing it. Never liked it, but it is. So if we've decided the 3%, what's going to be the KW commission here?
Am I allowed to answer?
Anybody else want to answer?
I was gonna say, 'cause I know that one might hurt.
So what would the commission be? This is going to be how much money you're going to make. You should know this one without a calculator. Right? So you're going to make
You're at least gonna get the south side.
So you're going to get 3%
Plus.
plus the 250, right?
Plus 150.
Plus 150, so it's 400, right? So that's the KW side. And the co-op side is 3% minus 150.
Okay, but that's because you
Excuse me?
started, that's because you
Can I
started,
just make one?
Absolutely.
Observation? Okay, so the top number, just so you know, John, on the listing agreements, for whatever reason, they always put the money first. So it's
Okay.
250 plus 6%. Whatever reason they do it, that's the way they do it. But yet, always remember that 6% plus the 250 is the total amount of money that we're gonna have as a commission. Can't have any more or any less. That's what we will have.
Yeah.
The next two numbers have to add up to what that total amount is.
can it be the?
Regardless of how you do it, they have to add up. In this case, just get 3% plus 250 from the seller, plus another 150 from the co-op, so that makes it 3% plus 400, like John did, which is exactly right. That's the number to remember, is that it always has to add up to that top number. If you add those two numbers together, they have to add up to that top number.
Okay.
So really, 3% plus 400 plus 3% minus 150 equals 6% plus 250.
Yes, I don't do it that way though, but it's not mandatory.
No, it's not mandatory.
Any way you want
The issue is that people are filling out the contracts incorrectly, so that's why.
So what do you do you want to do 3.5 and then give them 2.5?
So you could do that. You would then
How
basically,
would that look?
it would just look 3.5, 2.5.
Oh.
And this would be 2.5.
We have an agent in our office that does 6% plus $395
Holy moly.
every listing. And then does 3.5 and 2.5 minus 200.
Holy man.
So his are always 3.5 plus 595.
Guys, you have the ability to charge whatever commission you feel is appropriate for you. Don't ever get stuck on percentages. So, all I'm going to say is this isn't a commissions class.
I know, I'm sorry, John, I was.
No, but I get it. I get 100%. I could tell you some other stories, but
All right, I got it.
And you know what, I always made it simpler, 3% myself, or 3.5 plus 250, and then 2.5 minus 250, you know.
so the only thing that you have to make sure is where the point people really usually make a mistake is they don't put the plus and the minus on their commission in this contract when they talk about being split. So
So am I wrong to say, if I put this in there, that it will show up on every one of mine?
it'll show up on every one of them. So if you're ever, so put it, it would make sense if you have either a variable commission program or depending on how you're set up to put it higher, so you can always reduce it later. But if you send somebody over a 3% listing agreement, then it's going to be a lot difficult to talk yourself up from that. This could potentially keep, I have seen agents fill this part out wrong more than one time, and you know when they find out that they filled it wrong? When they're at the closing table or after they've gotten the check. So it might make sense to do it now. You can always change it. You can change it on every loop. It does not have to stay like that for a specific loop.
Also, you can change that.
You can change it within any information we put here can be changed on the specific loop we're using here. It's not locked in. Okay. Line 104, what we'll see is I usually put in there 180 days. That just says that if any buyer who has expressed interest in the property and or seen the property during the time that I had it listed, you can't say, come back tomorrow, it's expiring, right? And then try to do a deal without me.
You said you do 190?
180 days.
Yeah, 180, yeah. Right, so,
I mean,
like, where'd you get 190?
now, special commission information. What would be something we might put in there?
Bonus?
Possibly. I would think more or less if you have some type of commission program where maybe it's variable. So maybe if you charge 6% if there's a buyer and seller, maybe you would reduce it to 5% if you were a dual agent, right? Or maybe even 4% if the seller, for some reason, the seller finds a buyer. Right, so there's a couple different scenarios there. Or if you had a team, I've seen people say, well, I've seen people say, if I have it and one of my team members sells it, this is the commission. Okay. Any questions on that before we move on?
Yeah, could you, so.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do, okay, so that 250 is the pictures that you've had,
Yes.
and then the 150 is just the.
The MLS fee, the MLS co-op. So basically I'm paying out 2.5% minus $150. Okay, something you can do. I'm not telling you to do it. It's not required by this office, but you'll see every other broker in the world seems to do it. Don't ask me why. No, there actually is some history behind it. Is what happened is that the big brokers got mad that they were all funding the MLS. So they said, we're just going to charge this fee because we want to make more, you guys are paying the same amount of money that we are for the MLS, and we're supporting the membership of the MLS. So that's why it's called an MLS fee. There's your history lesson for the day. All right, so if we go down, so I'm just pointing out in lines 126 that the seller has to purposefully initial this. It will not ask them to auto-initial this when you send them the file. They will have to manually go in and click, but it will not prompt them to initial this section. So if they don't want their house on the internet for some reason, this is where they would opt out of that. That kind of understood? But it will not prompt them to initial there so that they might mistakenly do it. Okay, line 154. I always want to check seller or seller's attorney will make the appropriate title insurance and any related services. If you do have some other kind of arrangement, which I'm not sure that anybody does here, but it's not unreasonable that it could be.
What if they decide not to use an attorney? Because I've had that.
Well, that's a seller or seller's attorney.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to be ordering.
Buyer.
What you don't want to be doing is you don't want to be ordering title insurance, or I don't believe you want to be doing that. If some situation were to come up, but that probably is a good discussion to have with your managing broker on that.
There is situations where we talk about them later.
Okay, so the rest of this, this would be filled out at the time of the listing, paragraph 15. Paragraph 16, this is an opportunity that you have that you may be able to ask the seller to provide a home warranty. So if you were gonna maybe send them the contract ahead of time saying, hey, Joe, I want to come over to your house, we're gonna list your house, I'm gonna send you a copy of the contract so you understand it all, and you can look through it at the beginning. You might want to add the home warranty here. And you can do this, you can change this on the individual transaction or the loop, but it might be something that you wish to add in now. And a good fee that I typically find is about $500. And if you have a home warranty company that you do business with or that the office does business, you can feel free to put them in here. And I believe you could potentially put more than one home warranty company in here. So if they wanted to select which provider they're going to pick. Right? So if you weren't sure if they were going to do HWA or what's the other one? AWS or what is that?
AHS.
AHS, right? So. Okay. Taxes and assessments. What I always try to do is I always mark kind of by default, potentially, I put it is not, because I want the seller to make sure that they told me this. However, they can change this they can change this if they want. So it's up to you whether or not you want to fill this out and if it's part of a homeowners association or not. So just something to keep in mind when you're listing it, so that you want to make sure that you're properly explaining the property. What I find is that in the areas that I deal in, the special assessments and or special service areas are not common. It doesn't mean that they don't have to be addressed on a deal by deal specific.
How do you find out if they're in a special service area?
That's really a good question. So what I'll tell you an example of something that I did. I purchased the property. I had an attorney. I buy the property. I'm all gung ho. I'm going to get the taxes reduced. Found out it's in a TIF zone. Now, how would I have known that? I mean, really, realistically, it would have thought that I probably would have had to look at a tax bill, or that would probably be the only way to actually do that.
Yeah, I would think that should all be on a public record,
Yeah,
treasurer's tax bill site.
I'm sure you can find it if you go to the treasurer's site and find it. It's not, I have, like I said, my own personal deal. I found that it never came up until after I owned the property.
Yeah, or call the treasurer like directly if you think.
And you want to make sure that who's making the call, right? So if you make a call to find out, you always want to make sure to tell your client to please call and verify. You never know. I've talked to like 3 different people and I've got 3 different answers and some things like that. So, is there any other way that you know of?
Usually a homeowner will know though.
Yeah, if you look on the tax.
So on tax bill, they should know. There's not too many, like you said, John, there's not too many around here. Kind of all towards Aurora.
Right, and then the special assessments, right? Sometimes with condos, you're gonna see that stuff.
Maybe, yeah, but
Right, so, but usually the person's trying to tell me, hey, I gotta hurry to get this rid of because my special assessment's coming up, in January, they want another $2,000 from me, whatever. So.
right, but yet it's saying if they know, like they have to tell.
Right, they have to tell.
And it confirms it in the contract where they actually tell it at the beginning, during, and after the contract. So.
Okay, so earnest money, paragraph 22. Okay, what I would suggest you do, because you're the listing agent, is that you should check the top one. This allows, or basically tells them that our office will hold your earnest money as benefit, as a, what do they call it, escrowee, right? Compliance with Illinois state law. What I have been told is that the real estate company is the best place to hold earnest money, because other people that do, attorneys and or title companies, are not to be held to the same standard as real estate brokerages. Is that a correct statement, would you say?
Not sure, but yes, I
It
would say
makes
it's a correct
sense.
statement, yes.
So, but the real estate, you should.
We attempted to do it one time, and it was a complete disaster, so we stopped doing it.
Right, so what I've heard some of the stories is if you use a title company, and there might be times that it makes sense to use a title company. I can see a couple different specific scenarios, right? That what happens is, what happens when you do a contract release? Usually, in my experience, the office cuts a check within about 48 hours. What time, if all the paperwork is signed, you do a release. Try getting a title company to cut a check in 48 hours, maybe even a week. So, while there are situations that may require earnest money to be held by a title company, this is the best option for a typical house. Line 28. Right? Line 28 is going to talk about what happens if somebody knocks on the door and says, you know what, I really don't want to buy or paragraph 28, I don't really want to buy the house. Would your seller consider leasing the house? I get those calls all the time on my listings. So this is where you would ask for, well, even though I'm not marketing it for a lease, if you do lease it, this is where you want to get paid. And it also says, if that tenant then buys the property afterwards, here's how you get paid for that commission. So you could put something in here like 1 month's rent. Doesn't have to be right, 1 month's rent. And then maybe you would say 6% minus 1 month's rent, right? If they buy it, or 3.5%, or whatever it would be, but that's where you would add that information. Okay, now we're coming to the last page here, and this is probably the most important page because you want to make sure all the information is 100% correct on here. So this is where you want to potentially add the managing broker's name. Now, theoretically, when you do a loop, how do you spell your name, Anthony? I can't ever spell it right.
F-E-I-E-R.
All right, I had it. What's that right? Theoretically, it should autofill this information when you assign that person to the role. So if you assign a person as a managing broker in your loop, it should auto-populate. But if you don't assign a managing broker, the information will still be here and typed in there. So when you hit submit for review and send it to the broker for his review and signature, his name will be already typed in there and you'll like it even more.
Where the confusion I see with that, John, is I think a lot of people get confused because they want to submit share with me, as compared to submit for review to Keller Williams Administration.
So,
and I don't know how we get past that.
It's a training issue. It's a tough one to overcome because all logical things would make sense. Would be that I would share it with you to sign.
Sure.
It's just it doesn't quite. What they should have is a separate thing that says submit to broker for signature. And have that as a separate feature.
Could they use something like that?
If I was programming the system, probably yes, but I'm not there right now. I'm here, right. So I don't see that happening. Okay?
Because it's a question that gets asked to me all the time, and I don't know how to answer it. I'm just like, I just know the way to do it. So I wish there was a way I could block them. You know what I mean? I wish there was a way to just block them. So that automatically they have to share submit through. Yeah. Right? But I don't know how to do that either.
Because I can choose any person to be the managing broker. So I could even choose myself to be the managing broker in the role, right? So you really couldn't prevent them from doing that. I think this would help that if they type in the name, so they're not trying to autofill the name at a later date or when they're doing a loop. Okay?
So can we back up a little bit?
Yeah.
Add him to every loop as the managing broker?
I would say no. I'm going to say no on that. We're going to talk about that in the next session a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a live session of that next time of working with a buyer and seller. We're going to go through a real world scenario.
Oh, when does that? It's on the calendar?
It should be on the calendar. I believe it would be next week at the same time. If it's not, it will be at 2 o'clock. And I apologize for those that have to leave earlier. It's just trying to get on the schedule and not conflict with coaching. All right, so what you want to do here is you're going to want to put the office address. From the north side, you put the south in there, or from the south side, you don't. What's the
60467.
60467? You want to make sure you at least put your phone number in there. Right, and the office phone is 708-798-1111. That sound right? By the way, Jennifer, your form is complete in there, so your listing agreement should be in the listing agreements now. I just got an email on it.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask later when we were done, would I be able to go in and put in all the forms that
They're already there. We're just
myself?
waiting. No, it won't. You're not gonna. It's not gonna help anything. It's just actually gonna screw it up more.
I know, that's why I was gonna, because if I can pre-fill them out and then have them all where I.
Yeah, no, because that doesn't quite work.
Okay.
By the end of the week, it should be taken care of. All right, and the listing agreement should be in there right now. I just got an email.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we'll look at it after class. So everybody that has been able to pre-fill out their contract? Okay. So everybody that's there, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top right of the corner and click Save. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this here to show you guys how this should function. So if I was in Dotloop, right, and I want to create a new loop, I can simply come over to the loop section. And this is just watch. We're not going to do this in class. This will be part of next week's class. And I'll click a new loop. I just put an address in there, create a loop. And if I go to my template section, and I look at find my pre-filled out information, I can select them all and copy all those documents into the loop.
So basically after I press save, it gave me an option to add to loop.
Did it? Okay.
So is that pretty much the same concept? Like I just press save.
Yeah, that probably would work the same way. I'm not sure. So here's where you would fill in all the information here, right? Of each person. So you would simply, let's see if I can find somebody. So I'm the listing agent, right? Seller. So if I wanted to, and we're going to go over this more. So if I do autofill, in this case, will happen is you will see that the document will autofill the specific information about the property. It'll fill out the bottom of every page. And if we just look as an example here on the bottom of the last page, you'll see that all the information is set properly. In next week's class, we'll show how to assign a seller so that it'll autofill all their information in as well, and then you can easily share it with them. All right, so that's going to conclude this class. I'm going to stick around and answer any questions you may have.
One question.